guess the machine needed something. It's the phone. There are things to do, places to be. Interactions with each other. And reactions to the interactions. So maybe another way of describing an all-day sitting, and again, in just a very provisional way, it's really for each of us to discover what's happening, what's going on, and in each moment, or at least there's that opportunity, even if the brain is just producing thought after thought, it can be seen. At least for moments at a time, and then go back to the thoughts. The thoughts dominate. It's not really going back and forth. And there's a coming to, noticing there's thoughts. And maybe I'm not a good meditator. I shouldn't think. Where does that come from? The programming, the ideas we carry with us about what should and shouldn't be. So I'm wondering too, is this an opportunity for a respite from that? That's a tough order, really, because it's so ingrained, how we should be, how we should act or not act. And to have a little bit of freedom from that, or a lot. Don't have to restrict ourselves. We don't know what's possible. In the quiet. Together in a warm room, sun streaming in. And maybe this possibility, this all-day sitting, is a chance to not do anything. Maybe that's a very radical not a concept, just a possibility in and of itself. But it is conceptual if it just lies there in thought. What would that mean? Going against everything we've been taught, to be productive, to achieve something, to become somebody, and to simply be here. To sit quiet and see what comes. Not pushing anything away and not necessarily clinging to anything. These things happen, but it can be discovered, that tendency to either try to escape or to hold on to the pleasant things, or even, oddly enough, to hold on to the unpleasant, my guilt about the way I talked to someone or didn't talk with someone, what I did or didn't do. And again, perhaps in this silence and this not doing, there's an invitation to be here and to discover what that is, and discover how quickly we want to get away from being here, at least in thought, to try to create something that isn't what we conceive to be doing nothing or being here. Play a song in the head. And again, it's not said critically, but just to watch all of these comings and goings. And yet, one is here, oddly enough, no matter what we think, There's breathing, sitting, or standing, or lying down, walking. No matter where we think we're going, we're here. And that's not said as a, I don't know, something mystical or achievable. Be more present. If you're more present, you'll be a better person. You'll have a happier life. It's just that it's a fact. Living, breathing. No matter what we think, we're here. So maybe in that way, there can be a lightness, a kind of spaciousness around thought that beholds thought but doesn't get beguiled by thought, that doesn't have to believe everything that comes into the mind or fight against it. Just taking everything in, wondering what's going on. And then the sense here is then thought, if it isn't looked at as an enemy or a necessity, it is a necessity at times when we work, when we buy the computer, or even when we're cleaning or building or fixing lunch. Thought has a place. But in sitting quietly and just watching, take off the just. What is it? Just listening, kind of with fresh ears, or fresh senses, not limiting it to the ears. Because the thoughts can irritate, can trigger, and set off alarm bells, or be a catalyst for a lot of things, a lot of anxieties, or maybe pleasures. And without weighing and without analyzing, just seeing the interaction of thought and body, the body-brain, perhaps, it becomes less sticky. Clingy. And maybe there is some of this space that was alluded to, this lightness. And maybe not to make too much out of anything. It should be like this, it shouldn't be like that. So much energy going into trying. To what? To be some idea I have of how I should be. And also, as night follows day follows night, how the others should be. A more kind of, well, I think they're equally dangerous. Those movements of, and then maybe I get an idea of, I'm doing it right. I've got it, and you don't. And what hell comes from that? Well, it can be observed with what called before fresh interest, and maybe not even blaming oneself for the very automatic way we react, the way we try to organize other people to be what we think they should be, to organize ourselves to what we think we should be. I don't think that warmth, friendliness, compassion comes out of a should. It comes out of seeing clearly, out of this here-ness, this presence. When I'm not so worried about myself, or you, or what I think you are, that we're open to the possibility that none of these thoughts really meet the actual. Then somebody will say, well, what do you mean by the actual? I don't know. Because once we pin something down, come up with a definition or a tenet, a dogma, we're stuck in that. And in the necessity to defend that if somebody challenges us. So again, this coming together, being quiet together, also invites the possibility of being, for moments at a time, undefended, truly undefended. Maybe wondering what it is that needs to be defended beyond the conceptual. All the things that were listed so far, the thoughts about what I am or who I am. In those quiet spaces, the gaps, what is it? What is it? Of course, I'm not talking about if there's a car's coming or something, you don't get out of the way, but this psychological defense system. Defending the psychological entity that is such a nebulous and elusive, whatever, character. Sort of is a character in a way, in the play that one is constantly writing. Maybe not really purposefully, out of what we've learned, what we've been taught, what we think is appropriate. The conditioning, the weight of history, my history, human history, my people, my religion, my politics. Is that what we are? Or is there something else, undefined, open? Open to whatever may come. This is coming back to something I noticed this morning, coming into the sitting room. And I didn't take a, what do you call it, panoramic view, but I was sitting over in against the kind of the fake wall, I call it, the wooden doors that are all lined up to be a wall underneath the concrete. So I could see the whole room, and everyone had turned their mats towards the big windows. When we were building this building, we bought 4 sets of the windows like that are on this side, on the north side. And the big windows were not there. Probably wasn't anything there. But as we were building, we'd hired somebody from the Zen center that we came from to help us. And I think he spec'd out that we would have these 4 windows, 2 of them over there, And someone said, no, we want to open this to the view. And he argued that, no, two no's meeting each other. You don't want that. You want to concentrate. You want to keep your attention on the practice. This is actually where I meant to start, and I wandered off. This idea that there is a practice of concentration, attention, I wouldn't say awareness, but a very focused attention that will enable us to quiet the mind, to open it, to prepare it. Maybe open is not quite the right word, but to prepare it for some kind of experience that will enlighten us through that concentration. And so it was interesting to see that this, without instruction, without these kind of strictures, that we turn toward the open side, toward the hills, snow, the brown weeds that were, at least this morning, were swaying in the wind. Call them weeds. It's kind of a catch-all term. Meadow grasses, flowers, goldenrod, Queen Anne's lace, but now brown, trees without leaves, beautiful hedgerow, a quiet garden. I read something, and I read it very superficially recently, I think was in the latest New Yorker, a review of a book about medieval monks and how hard they felt it was really necessary to concentrate, to be attentive. But in their journals, they would say how hard it was, how few of them actually kind of picked up that trick. So there's a wondering here. Is there a different way to approach this quiet sitting, which does take some discipline? It's hard if one hasn't done it very much. The body wants to move around. It feels a little strange. Maybe for the first 10 minutes it's fine, and then there's longing for the bell. And I'm not saying that's for anybody here, but it's within the scope of one's experience, how difficult it is to be still. And maybe some of that coming from childhood, when one was told to be still, and one has an urge to move, a lot of energy, vitality. So in this being still, quietly, or however still one is, without making an effort to concentrate, perhaps that could, in a way, feel disquieting. I need to have some direction here, or these thoughts are just going to keep coming. Well, we can find out. We have some time, a day, part of a day left, to see. Does there need to be a struggle? And to wonder who it is that's struggling. And maybe in this way of this natural turning to what's here, to the openness, to the beauty, And I'm not saying that one has to stare out constantly at the hills, create some new necessity. But it's kind of neat in a way. For this person, usually there's a posture of the eyes, which is very relaxed. It's not with the eyes closed because it's found here that then I tend to fall asleep, basically, either asleep or half asleep, with the eyes kind of gazing downward, unfocused towards the floor or the mat, but sometimes occasionally looking up and taking everything in. And no right or wrong. That's all conditioning, isn't it? If you just do this, what will happen? There's so much of it in everyday life, on the internet. Do this for 30 days and you'll be blah, blah, blah. Well, who knows? Maybe for 30 microseconds, not doing anything, not struggling, not trying. Just being here. Not having to be here forever. Creating a new idea of what being here means. Just wondering, what is it? What is being talked about? It's not the words. It's a kind of quieting. This blanketing of snow. Kind of holding the ground. Staying here, wondering. And not knowing. Not knowing what's next. Not knowing if we're bound to what's happened in the past. Are we incapable of letting go? Or should I not let go? Or all the fuss. Just resting for a moment. Resting in this here-ness. Which is resting in everything. In the universe. In the totality of being. Instead of shutting oneself in the thought cave. And again, it's not said in any kind of way of condemning thought, but just noticing if there's kind of a pulling back, that there's some quiet, and then, I don't know, this is scary. But it's almost reflexive to kind of make more noise, to turn on the radio, to pull out the phone, to read something. And I'm not saying this, it happens here. We kind of just have to have something, a little something. And then we wonder, why am I so busy, so tied up? Why have I created so many necessities through the day? Well, I don't know. We do it. But it's really, to this person, wonderful to have an opportunity. I think we almost try to do this once a month. As soon as I say that, I know I'm probably saying something wrong, but we try to do it fairly often, to offer this opportunity to come together and to take some time off. To just be here. To sit and maybe to take a walk. I went for a walk during what we call the break period between the morning sitting and the sitting before the talk. It's just incredible. It's not muddy anymore, at least not in most places. As I went along, I noticed that at a certain point there wasn't any people footprints till I came hopping along, but a lot of animal prints. Some of them are familiar, some weren't. As I got closer to the creek, walking down the south field, cutting over into the path by the creek, more noticeable the raccoon print and deer, squirrel, and something canine, probably a coyote. In and out of this human created path. But maybe a very natural path. A flat place to walk along a creek bed, along a cliff where a creek is below. And kind of a feeling of sharing, of harmony, with trees and sunlight coming through the trees, shadows, with the footprints. The one that looked like a raccoon had gone down to the water, probably walked across the shallow water. Others just veered off, looking for food, probably shelter. Life living itself. And even though we think sometimes that we're not part of that we're something apart from nature, from animal life, from tree life, from sun and cloud, or we're so caught up in our story, our drama, that we miss. Or we mistake in a very innocent way. And I guess this is one of the things that's found here to be so wonderful. And I'm not trying to make an advertisement, but just to report accurately that have some quiet time to walk, to be here, and to notice, and maybe to lose some of that feeling of separation. It's not necessarily a gradual process. It can happen at any moment. That kind of standing back, holding back, or running away abates on its own. And one realizes that this is the whole of life. And that we're not separate from that. Not above or below. Just here. Breathing, sensing, aware. An awareness that doesn't need to be forced through concentration. That I would say is natural. Natural way of being. Nobody's property. And not something that can be bought or sold or forced. presence, awareness. It's not an achievement, and it's not something that we can grasp tightly. It's when the hands are open, the whole being open, the heart, the body relaxed. Here, with whatever may arise, meeting. And the word meeting sort of creates a little sense of I'm meeting that, but it's a meeting without any sense of separation. The aliveness of this moment. I'll end the talk here.